It's Archive Flow, and today we're talking about the NFL. It's crazy because as I'm recording this is around the time that LeBron just chose to sign with the Philadelphia Sixers, but that's neither here nor there. Today we're talking Carnell Tate, and it wasn't necessarily a chalk pick. A lot of people wanted Jeremiah Love, who went number 3 to the Cardinals, or they were looking to pick a defender like Arvell Reese or Sonny Styles, who went to my Commanders. They ended up taking Carnell Tate, which I believe was the right choice, and I think what played into that decision 100% was Mike Borgonzi's experience with the Kansas City Chiefs and understanding how valuable the weapon of a wide receiver one alongside your future franchise quarterback is. Obviously, he was there as an assistant GM with Patrick Mahomes, and he saw the success he had with a number one target such as Travis Kelce, but also the sustained success they had when they had Tyreek Hill. And I think Carnell Tate is definitely a way different blend of receiver or pass catcher, and way different from those two. But I believe he still has the ability to do damage in the league to the effect of a true wide receiver one and X receiver. One of the reasons why I was very high on Carnell Tate during the process, and I still am, is because he has a different blend of route craftsmanship, size, and the ability to catch the ball at a lot of different varying angles and a lot of different catch points. Another underrated trait I would definitely say that Carnell Tate has is a difference between 40 times speed and football and pass speed. Carnell Tate is the type of guy, again, he ran, I'm pretty sure, a 4.5 or something a little bit slower than that. I'm not really concerned about 40 times because a lot of receivers, you can put them up on the screen real quick, like they've had not the best 40 times. And also we understand that 40 times is not necessarily an indicator of what a great receiver is. We've seen a lot of receivers who haven't had the best success in the NFL, i.e. like a John Ross, for example, even though they had really fast blazing 40 times and or injuries, might have derailed their career. It doesn't mean that just because you pick the fastest receiver on the board, that means you're going to have a 1,400-yard receiver. But I think he has a lot of the undervalued traits of a wide receiver one, and especially with his journey to getting selected by the Tennessee Titans, there was a lot of naysayers about Carnell Tate in this class for sure. When it comes to a comparison to somebody like Jordan Tyson, who has consistently had more targets, more receptions, more receiving yards, more opportunity in general. Carnell Tate definitely took the risk to work through that Brian Hartline system. He was a 5-star coming out of IMG Academy, and he chose to go to Ohio State to grow his game consistently and work behind a lot of receivers we see that are first-round receivers that are doing damage right now. For example, Emeka Egbuka and more. So what I can see in the future for Carnell Tate is a receiver that gets a lot of volume, especially next to Alec Iomanner, who had a really solid season. The receiver from Stanford who got drafted by Tennessee, he had about 500 yards, 4 touchdowns, which I think is really good for a rookie who didn't really have first or second round expectations. And then also Mike Borgazzi also went out and got Wan'Dale Robinson, who had a monster season, at least to my evaluation with the New York Giants. He had 1,000 yards last season. So if you get a move Z receiver like Wan'Dale Robinson, and then you put Carnell Tate in an offense with Cam Ward, who loves to get the ball to his number one targets, is a gunslinger to many effects. Carnell Tate is definitely the type of guy that I believe is going to be very impactful in this league, especially with the physicality that he has. I believe he has a varying amount of releases, and he can beat press. I think he's one of the best intermediate route runners that I've seen in a minute. I also think that the way that he just gets free with deep routes is kind of crazy. There were so many times he beat guys on post on film, and to have somebody like Wan'Dale Robinson across from him, I think is gonna be 100% something that's going to be positive to his development. Carnell Tate, of course, doesn't come without drawbacks. He is about 195 pounds. It's not like he's 212 built. He also is about 6'2". He's not a true 6'3". This is all really semantics. I mean, if you could play, you can play. That's the biggest thing I would say. About his history, about not catching many catches or having a lot of receptions, I think we've also learned that just because you have high target share or just because you're in a certain system doesn't mean that we should bias the scale a certain way. I mean, that's how we've seen a lot of Big 12 receivers that have come out the draft get overvalued when it comes to them having crazy 1,300-yard seasons off of a lot of varying different schemes. For example, looking at certain TCU receivers or certain Oklahoma State receivers who have like these crazy monster numbers, but in terms of like route refinement and beating press and having releases, a lot of the gimmick stuff that they're running in their college offenses against soft coverages and soft shells, and they're not really seeing NFL too high or real offenses, it comes to hurt them in the NFL. I think it will be a solid adjustment for Carnell Tate in general. He's a guy that I'm personally going to have on my fantasy football team. I was a guy way back in the day where Jonathan Taylor, I'm pretty sure I drafted him in the 5th round or 4th round, and I got really great value from him as a rookie. But less on the fantasy football anecdote, but in general, I believe he's going to be a really great building block for Cam Ward, and especially with his vertical, his ability to be a red zone target, a guy that's going to be able to be consistent on slot fades and slants and in routes and outbreaking routes and comebacks, which I think is one of his strongest route, if not the strongest route that he has. He doesn't have drop problems. He has a lot of route nuance. So I think Carnell Tate is just an absolute dog, and I think we saw it a lot on Saturdays, especially in big games versus Michigan and other top competition. A lot of people did have stuff to say about him tailoring off as the season went on in certain like postseason games. Again, not to make too many excuses for him, but it could depend on your quarterback, honestly and truly. It is the college system. He also did play. It'd be a shame if I didn't mention that he did play next to Jeremiah Smith. So we will see how it is for him being a true, I guess, 2 event. He's a 2 right now. I would say next to Wan'Dale Robinson. I think Wan'Dale Robinson is probably going to get most of the target shares and stuff like that, just because it's a guy that's coming off a 1,000-yard season and he's had kind of the body to work at the NFL. But we'll see how he kind of develops into a true 1 for the first time in his career since IMG. And again, I got all my stock in Carnell Tate. Like, I will be drafting him high in fantasy. I will 100% be punching in my lotto ticket for this guy to be a future all-pro. I'm going to be honest. On Carnell Tate, one thing I would say about his profile that is definitely underrated is, although he had 875 yards in his final season, which some would say is not the best, especially considering most first-round receivers have around 1,000 yards or more, is that he had that type of yardage on only 51 receptions, totaling out to 17 yards per reception, and he had 9 touchdowns. Even from scrimmage, he had 891 yards on 53 plays for 9 touchdowns, which is, again, about an average of 17 yards per every time he touches the ball. I think with his profile and with the prestige and pedigree that he comes from, I would say that it's going to be very easy to scale up his target share, and I can 100% see him getting at least 80 targets this year and eventually scaling up to 90, 109 in his 3rd year. Lastly, I think it's important to note the draft compensation used to draft Carnell Tate number 4 overall is the right type of investment in the right direction, especially considering looking at their division. A team like the Jacksonville Jaguars, who traded up to get Travis Hunter to play obviously receiver and corner, but he's a pass catcher. And then also a continued investment in receiver, drafting Brian Thomas in the 1st round, regardless of how you feel about his production, his play, or his drop issues. Also, you have the Colts, who re-signed Alex Pierce to a very, very hefty deal to make sure that he didn't go out in the open market. They still have Josh Downs, who's a lot of people's one of their favorite slot receivers in the NFL. Then you have the Houston Texans, who have also made a continued effort to get targets for CJ Stroud, and they have Nico Collins, obviously, and they have 2 really good young receivers in Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel. So I think it's the step in the right direction for Tennessee, and we'll see how their team just gets through a lot of these different growing pains, and let's see if they can get a lot of different divisional wins. But I think with Cam Ward at the helm, Carnell Tate at the X, Wan'Dale Robinson at the Z, and Alec Eilmanor also in the rotation, this team can do a lot of good work and upset a good team or 2 throughout the rest of this regular season. The next and last player I'll be talking about is Dylan Thieneman the player from Purdue who transferred to Oregon, the safety who was drafted 25th overall by the Chicago Bears in the 2026 NFL Draft. Completely being honest, I don't think safety gives him enough credit at all. I don't even think defender gives enough credit. I think he's a true weapon that fell to 25 for a variety of reasons. I guess obviously number one would be positional value. Teams are definitely 100% still grappling with whether to take the best player on the board or to take more traditional team needs that have a lot more positional value and fit the books in general, like trenches, O-line, D-line, and quarterback, and also receiver. Dylan Thieneman is one of those high RAS players that the draft community has just come to love. RAS is relative athletic score. It was created by MathBomb on Twitter. He does a lot of great work, and he's been doing that for years. But the relative athletic score is basically a composition of a lot of different composite grades, whether that be speed, agility, explosion, or size in general. It also has stuff like size and arm length that are just kind of like ancillary things that don't combine into the score, but you see on top of whatever player's marker they have. Dylan Thieneman has a 9.7 RAS score for safeties, meaning that he is a 97 percentile athlete at the safety position. And it's just true when you look at his speed score. I mean, he ran a 4.35 official. He had a 5.2 10-yard split, which is in a 95th percentile. He had a 41-inch vertical, which is in the 98th percentile. He had, which I think is one of the biggest indicators of explosion and athleticism in general, a 10-foot broad. So that was about a 89th percentile jump. So, and he put up 18 on the bench at 6 foot 201. That's just in general as an athlete, a really good benchmark. He's a true center fielder. And the thing about him is he's been a big time player since he stepped on the scene. As a freshman at Purdue, he had 106 tackles and 6 interceptions as a freshman, in the same class as Caleb Downs, who a lot of people had coming into this draft class 2 years ago as the best pound for pound player in the draft. If the NFL was kind of like the NBA and freshmen are able to declare, I'm pretty sure Caleb Downs would have been a top 10 pick maybe 2 years ago. But Caleb Downs, in relation to Dylan Thieneman, I think Dylan Thieneman gives you more pick value than where Caleb Downs was drafted. Even though I will say, unfortunately, the Cowboys picked him up. I'm a Commanders fan. But where the Cowboys got him, which was great value already. But I do think getting Dylan Thieneman as a team that was just in the playoffs and overtime away from being in a conference championship game with your young quarterback, Dylan Thieneman is the exact type of player with skill, speed, and character, and also the genuine production of backup. A pick that probably should be more valued in the top 15 picks. I think he probably should have been a top 15 pick in his class. But back to what he did at Purdue, he had 106 tackles and 6 interceptions as a freshman. His freshman year at Purdue netted him a lot of different awards. He was an Associated Press third team All-American. He was a Big Ten freshman the week 5 different times. He was second team All Big Ten according to the Associated Press and also coaches. So he definitely has the pedigree. And specifically with his journey and his archetype, there's a lot of people that undervalue white corners and white secondary and skill players in general. I'm talking about explosiveness and not believing that they have the necessary skills. But this is a player that has consistently put out 95 plus tackle years in high leverage and big time conferences. He has 8 picks in his total career. We know he's a ball hawk. We know he's a center fielder. He's someone you can put in one high. He can play in cover 2. You can put him in a box. He's very versatile. And when the news that the Chicago Bears wouldn't be re-signing Jaquan Brisker broke, I think a lot of Bears fans were looking at getting a defender, especially because they hadn't drafted a defender in a very long time in the first round. And I think Dylan Thieneman is just going to be an absolute superstar. In the same way that a player like Carson Schlesinger burst onto the scene for the Cleveland Browns, it's a player that until very late in the draft season last year, people were giving him maybe day 3 grades, early day 3 grades. He just had really clean film. He was a really great athlete at UCLA, and you see the fruits of his labor played off. He was the defensive rookie of the year for the whole NFL this year. Dylan Thieneman joins a Bears secondary that's headlined already by Jalen Johnson, Kyle Gordon, Tyreek Stevenson, but also Kobe Bryant, the Super Bowl champion winner, who just came over from the Seahawks, who's going to also be a safety duo alongside him. I think that he's going to be in an environment that's 100% conducive to him being put in a lot of great spots alongside great players. And I wouldn't be surprised if, again, he has one of these 75 plus tackle years, 2+ interceptions, and a playoff run where a lot of people are looking at him as one of the best top 20 safeties in the league almost instantly. I think his pedigree shows that. 100% again applaud the Bears for making this pick at pick 25. Finishing out the video, Dylan Thieneman and Carnell Tate are two players that I believe are building blocks for the futures of their team on 100% completely different timelines for different reasons. But I believe they're going to be in places where they can 100% succeed and outpace their draft mates positionally and even their draft position. Especially because Carnell Tate is a receiver, and we often know that to get great receivers in this league, it doesn't 9 times out of 10 come by free agency, or it becomes at a very expensive price via trade. And when it comes to safeties, we understand that secondary players in general, or defenders in general, can peak at a very high peak during their first few years in the league, rather than on the back ends of their primes or their 30s, where they may not have the same necessarily the same athleticism or skill that they once had, in comparison to playing against these new 20-year-olds or 24-year-old players that they will have to play against. Peace out to the video. Drop your comments in the comment section. This is not an echo chamber. If you believe that Carnell Tate isn't wide receiver one in this class, or that the take that Dylan Thieneman might be better value than Caleb Downs at pick 25 versus where Caleb Downs was drafted, drop it in the comment section. I'd love to comment on it and see what you think. Again, more videos coming. I won't just be dropping NBA content. I won't just be dropping NFL content. If you're into underground music, or you're into boxing, or even I can see myself dropping movie reviews on this channel, definitely tap in. It's going to be a lot of different stuff that I'm going to be working on. So appreciate y'all rocking with me, and it's Archive Flow, and I'll see ya.